My name is Richard, and for years I was the undisputed Playboy of Lagos. Every woman's dream, every man's envy. If there was a list of men who knew how to conquer women, my name sat comfortably at the top. Tall, wealthy, well-groomed, with a charm that could melt ice, I lived life like it was a buffet, and women were just different dishes waiting to be tasted. Clubs in Victoria Island, beach parties in Lekki, hotel suites in Ikeja, those were my battlegrounds. Married women, young ladies, even widows, I tasted them all. They said I was a gigolo, but I laughed. I never asked for money. Yet gifts, cash, even cars came my way. Women loved me, men wanted to be me, and I wanted nothing more than the thrill of the chase. I thought I knew women. I thought I had them all figured out, until the night I met Anita. It was at Velvet Lounge, a place where lights were dim and music drowned thoughts. I walked in with my boys, and as usual, the ladies shifted their gaze to me like iron to a magnet. I could already see which ones would end up in my bed before the night was over. But then I saw her. Anita. She wasn't the finest woman in the room, not the most dressed, not the loudest. In fact, her makeup was slightly smudged, her dress simple, her eyes heavy with secrets. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She just sat there, sipping her drink slowly, as if the world didn't exist. I approached her with my signature smile. "Hello, beautiful. Why you deform strong face for me?" She turned, looked me dead in the eye, and said calmly, "Because I'm not here to audition for your harem. Drink your drink. Let me drink mine." For the first time in my life, a woman's words cut through me like a blade. My friends laughed at me, but I couldn't laugh. There was something in her voice, firm, tired, honest. And from that night, my story began to change in ways I never imagined. After that night at Velvet Lounge, I couldn't get Anita out of my head. Me, Richard, the man who tossed women aside like empty bottles, suddenly losing sleep because of one woman's blunt rejection. It didn't make sense. I was used to women begging for my attention, sending me late-night texts, or at least pretending to be impressed by my money. But Anita? She looked at me as though I was just another customer in a crowded market. The next weekend, I went back to Velvet Lounge. And there she was, same seat, same calmness, sipping her drink like a ritual. This time, I came prepared. I sent the waiter with the most expensive champagne on the menu to her table. She looked at the drink, looked at me, and waved it away. I walked over. "You don't like champagne?" I asked. She smirked, not even raising her glass. "I like it, but I don't drink it when it's used as bait." Bait. That word hit me hard. Nobody had ever spoken to me like that. We ended up talking, though not the way I expected. Anita didn't giggle or flatter me. Instead, she asked me questions no woman ever dared. "Richard, are you ever tired of pretending? Do you even know what you're looking for, or is it just noise and lights?" I laughed it off, but her words clung to me long after I left. That night, I didn't go home with any woman. My boys mocked me. "Omo, a shawo don humble our kingo." They laughed till tears filled their eyes, but deep down, I knew something had shifted. I wanted Anita. Not her body. I'd had plenty of those. I wanted her mind, her spirit, that strange dignity she carried like a crown, even in her worn-out dress. So I made a decision. I was going to break her walls, no matter how long it took. But what I didn't know was that Anita's walls were built on secrets that could either save me or destroy me. Chasing Anita was nothing like chasing the other women I knew. Normally, all it took was a smile, a little money thrown around, and the woman would melt. But Anita, she was a fortress. Every time I thought I was close, she reminded me that she was not impressed. I started calling her. Sometimes she picked, sometimes she didn't. When she did, her voice was calm. Not excited, not playful, just calm, like she was doing me a favor. My friends couldn't believe it. Richard, the Prince of Lagos Knights, begging one ashawo for attention? They laughed like hyenas. But the more they mocked me, the more determined I became. One night, I followed Anita after she left Velvet Lounge. She walked through the dimly lit streets, not caring that I was trailing her in my Benz. Finally, she stopped in front of a shabby two-room apartment in Surulere. I was shocked. A woman that carried herself with such quiet dignity, living in a place like that? I parked and approached her. She sighed when she saw me. "Richard, what exactly do you want from me?" she asked, her voice tired. "I don't know," I confessed, for once speaking from my heart. "But I know you're not like the others. I want to know you." She gave me a long look, then pushed her door open. Inside, the room was small but neat. That was when I saw her secret. On the bed lay a frail teenage girl, coughing weakly. Anita rushed to her side, adjusting the girl's blanket. "My sister," she said quietly. "She's the reason I do what I do. School fees, hospital bills, life doesn't give people like us choices." I stood frozen. The so-called prostitute I thought was playing hard to get was carrying a cross heavier than I ever imagined. In that moment, Anita stopped being just a woman I wanted to conquer. She became a mirror, forcing me to see the emptiness of my own life. And for the first time, I felt shame. After that night in Anita's room, something broke inside me. I couldn't see her the same way again. The woman I thought was just another catch was carrying a burden that would crush many men. She gave her body not out of greed but survival, for her sick sister. That truth humbled me. I started visiting her often, bringing food, money for medicine, sometimes just sitting with her sister, while Anita went out to hustle. For the first time, I wasn't chasing a woman for pleasure. I was chasing her pain, trying to share it, to ease it. And strangely, that gave me a kind of peace my endless nightlife never gave. But the world wasn't kind. My friends mocked me openly. "Richard, Lagos Playboy, settling for one ashawo in Surulere? Na jazz she use hold you." Even women I once toyed with called my phone, hurling insults at Anita, threatening to expose her past. My own mother, when she heard whispers, sat me down and said, "Of all the decent women in Lagos, is it a prostitute you bring to our family? You want to disgrace us?" The pressure was real. Some nights, I sat alone wondering if I was truly mad. Why fight the whole world for one woman? But every time I looked at Anita, her resilience, her quiet dignity, I knew it was worth it. She never begged me to stay, never clung to me like others would. In fact, one evening she looked me straight in the eye and said, "Richard, don't lose your name for me. Men like you don't end up with women like me. When the world spits on us, it sticks forever." Her words cut deep. That night, I couldn't sleep. She was right. Society had already judged her, and by standing with her, I was dragging myself into the fire. But then, I remembered something my father once told me. The value of a man is not in how many women he conquers, but in the one he's willing to fight for. So when the mockery reached its peak, I made up my mind. I was going to face them all. My friends, my family, even the city if I had to. And I would tell them the truth that nobody wanted to hear. Because Anita was not the only sinner in the room. The showdown came faster than I expected. My mother called for a family dinner, but by the time I arrived, I realized it wasn't just family. My closest friends were there, and two of my old flings sat in the corner, their faces ready with drama. Anita had reluctantly followed me, though I could see the fear in her eyes. We hadn't even finished the first course before the knives came out. One of my exes leaned forward, smiling wickedly. "So Richard, Lagos's finest, this is the woman? A common prostitute?" Laughter rippled across the room. Another added, "You fit. Choose any clean woman in this city, yet you carry a shawo come your mother's house? Shayna Juju." Even my uncle, a man with his own scandals, cleared his throat and said, "Richard, don't destroy the family name because of one mistake." I looked at Anita. Her eyes were wet, her hand trembling under the table. She tried to rise, but I held her hand firmly. Then I stood up. "My name is Richard," I began, my voice steady. "And yes, this is Anita, the woman you call prostitute. But before you all cast your stones, let's talk about your own dirt." The room went silent. I looked each of them in the eye. "You," I pointed at my ex, "sleep with married men for handbags. But because they call you runs girl instead of prostitute, you think you're better? You, my so-called friend, 3 side chicks behind your wife, yet you laugh at her? Uncle, how many government contracts did you bribe your way into? Is that not selling your soul too?" Faces dropped. Nobody could laugh anymore. "You mock her because her sin is open. Yours is simply hidden. But in the eyes of truth, all of us are dirty. The difference is, she is the only one among us who has shown me loyalty, sacrifice, and love." Anita broke down in tears. For the first time, she wasn't ashamed, she was seen. I turned to her, wiped her cheek, and said loudly enough for all to hear, "I'm not saving her. She saved me. From emptiness, from lies, from myself." The silence that followed was heavy, almost holy. Nobody had an answer. One by one, eyes dropped and Anita's head rose. That night, I walked out of that house hand in hand with her, no longer the Prince of Lagos Nights, but a man who had finally found peace. And that, my friend, is how a prostitute turned a playboy into a lover boy.